Words cannot describe how I'm feeling right now. I feel like I just went 20 rounds with a bear, and I won, but I'm just exhausted. By the end of it, I was just begging for it to be over, but no! This thing had the audacity to have an epilogue, and then an epilogue of an epilogue. This whole movie felt like the fever dream of like someone in a galaxy far, far away, and we see his final moments in his mind as he seizes in bed. But I'm jumping way too far ahead. Before you sit here and ask, what the hell is she yapping about? I'm of course talking about the famous, or should I say infamous, Star Wars The Holiday Special, which I wanted to make a special reaction for you guys because after watching like 6 originals and prequels, I figured, why the hell not? Like, I figured we should have some laughs, but no. This movie is not so bad it's good. It's not so bad that it's even bad. No, this movie broke me, okay? I legit had a mental breakdown while watching this for a reaction. By the end of it, I was so broken and offended that I felt like I shouldn't make a reaction for this, but rather a rant video as like a therapy session between you and I will link the reaction to my Patreon if I ever post it, but it's just mostly me doing like this. Yeah, 1 hour and 37 minutes that felt like 12 days, and all throughout me crying, cursing God, and negotiating my escape from this prison was not something I wanted to post and ruin your mental health. So I figured a like rant style video would do it more justice. Moving on. Right at the beginning, the movie offends us by not even having like the correct font and script style for the Star Wars logo, or even for a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it immediately leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like, if there was even a little bit of money attached to this thing, even for TV, like say maybe $20, could you not have come up with something that looks worse than a flyer for dog sitting made by a 12-year-old? Also, side note, I was quite surprised by how easily I found this movie on YouTube, like the whole entire thing, not just like a reaction. And I had to double check to see if it was like a college project or something, but nope, it's the real deal. Moving on. There are some characters in this movie that induce some kind of like non-drug related psychosis in me, so let's go through them one by one. At first, we're greeted by a matte painting Wookie treehouse where we meet Chewbacca's wife, his dad, and what seems to be his son, who also sort of resembles the hairy squeaky man in the Addams Family. You know, the one who married that realtor and had hairy babies.
We were blessed with our own little bundle of joy.
This kid looks just like that if that man ever did a face reveal. That's like the long way of me saying that that's like the ugliest fucking child I've ever seen, and that's not the worst part. The worst part is their home. They have this ugly green carpeting, wood panels, and some wooden planes and TV sets, and a kitchen that resembles human interior designs, but also at the same time doesn't. And the whole house feels AI generated, like it's an uncanny valley version of someone's childhood memory of a living room. So I guess kudos for making a familiar place look alien. So after the hairy mom yells at her hairy baby to go take out the garbage or something, the hairy baby tries to commit suicide? That's the best way I can explain it, because he looks down and it's like the deep dark abyss, and he thinks, hey, this is a good ledge to walk on. After this, the family watches some Cirque du Soleil show where the dancers in green and orange leotards show up, juggle and shit, and I shit you not, this was the ugliest performance I have ever seen. Not because they were bad, no, but they were dressed in some hideous vomit green outfits coupled with terrible color grading, not to mention the music. Holy shit. Oh my god. The music felt like it shaved my lifespan by half. It took me 3 days to finish this fucking thing. 3 days for an hour and a half long special, and most of it was trying to sit through this performance. The family seemed to enjoy the shit out of it, so hey, I guess bad 80s circus show slaps in some galaxy far, far away. After that, they seemed worried that Chewbacca hadn't shown up for some festival, I guess it's called Life Day, and they contact Luke Skywalker through your grandma's television set, the one with the sliding wooden door, you know what I mean, right? And wow, if my sleep paralysis demon would have a face, it would be this version of Luke Skywalker's. I mean, there was nothing wrong with his face, but it was his eyes. He just wouldn't blink. Throughout this whole monologue of staring into the abyss, or I guess talking to the hairy people, he didn't blink once. I double checked. He just kept staring into my soul, and I like kind of had to look away for a few seconds because it reminded me of Tom Cruise during his like Scientology high. I guess he was also wearing a lot of makeup because of an accident, or so I've heard. None of it helped though. His eyes were of a demon goblin, his skin did not look like skin, and by the end of the scene he dies of like smoke inhalation off screen. At least that's what it looks like. We're 14 minutes into this 1.5 hour long saga, by the way. 14 minutes. This movie definitely makes you feel like time has slowed down. There's a scene where a store owner who's like 200 years old but dressed like Han Solo shows up, selling a mini aquarium to an Imperial soldier, and then just starts talking to himself for the next 5 minutes. And then, as God is my witness, we are greeted with perhaps the most TV version of an alien ever. A purple lady with 4 arms who's basically a man in a dress doing a cooking show. This gold-faced man was so bad, it was Steven Crowder levels of a bad version of a woman. This cross-dressing alien gets really excited about this dish to the point where her hair starts falling out as she bounces and whips and stirs, and I'm just sitting there wondering, how has my life come to this? What did the writer's room look like? And did George Lucas approve of this? If he did, was the money worth it? This is not even to mention what transpires immediately after, where we have to sit through an old hairy man. Yeah, I'm gonna keep calling them man because fuck that Wookie shit. This is not a Wookie alien, this is an abomination. And he sits there watching some type of VR erotic song, and here I really feel bad for the singer because she has no idea who's watching her on the other side, you know, like she's doing her best, bless her. And I can only imagine her face when this movie came out because her song isn't even that bad, but it's gonna be forever tied to an old, hairy, freaky old man watching her dance through a helmet. The nightmare continues. We are 30 minutes in and roughly 33% into this movie, and we are greeted by Leia doing her tax returns. And they get a phone call from a television box set, and oh my lord, my woman is zooted. She's barely standing because she's so drunk, and poor C-3PO had to carry that scene on his own. After this British robot translates some Wookiee screams, we get some homoerotic moments between Chewbacca and Han Solo, and this is not the last time this on-the-nose shit-ass dialogue happens again, by the way. Then some stormtroopers and Imperial guards arrive at this suburban alien house, and you can tell that they were given no instructions except look around, because they're just aimlessly picking up showpieces and poking fun at the hairy kid, until one of them sits down for another band performance, and I gotta say, this is perhaps like the only moment where I felt like I enjoyed myself a little bit because the band was not bad. It was really good. The song was really good, but they were surrounded by this like weird neon pink purple halo, and I was like, are you in Windows Studio apartment? Because he's the only one who should be rocking this purple color. Moving on. After this performance, the kid watches like an animation segment, and this segment makes no sense in the grand Star Wars universe, by the way, but throughout this animation scene, I just kept wondering, why wasn't this entire movie shot this way? Because this is without a doubt the best part of this movie. There's some action, the animation has that eerie Eddie, Courage the Cowardly Dog type feeling, but I didn't mind it, and there was actually a mission involved. Also, I have to add, if this is the first time Boba Fett made a debut, like I heard from someone, holy shit, this is embarrassing. But his part in this movie is the best part, no doubt. Boba Fett betrays them, Han Solo's face starts to melt, and there is a metal-eating dragon. I tell you, if this Star Wars special was only these 5 minutes, it would have been celebrated today as this cute little niche moment in this franchise. But it's not. The good segment ends way too early, and we are back in the hairy people's living room. At this point, the stormtroopers get way too fucking bored and start destroying the kid's bedroom for shits and giggles, and the kid gets like really sad, and the Imperial Guard laughs, because this is what they do in their free time, I guess, but the kid goes upstairs and tries to fix his room by watching a YouTube tutorial. And then, my friends and enemies, we are greeted with something that can only be described as a parody of like corporate work environment, where a human-like AI robot malfunctions as he gives instructions to the kid. Like literally glitches like a bad internet connection. At this point, I just gave up trying to understand what the fuck was going on. So I went online trying to look for answers, and many people said that this was like making fun of like infomercials back in the day. say, but I just had to wonder, was this even funny? Who's laughing at this? I would understand if they were trying to sell something here, like Zack Snyder and Turkish Airlines in Batman v Superman.
The presence of Turkish Airlines really makes me feel like these things are actually happening. Turkish Airlines.
But this is just, what is this? This is not funny. No, you do not get a cop-out by saying this is a satire or a parody. A parody of what? Capitalism? Bad infomercials and tutorials? Robots glitching in the middle of their speech? Are you even smart enough to make these parodies? Because this is not even accidentally funny. After my lifespan shrunk by about 80%, I just became an old man yelling at the TV at this point, where the movie cuts to this unnecessary scene in a bar or a cantina, whatever. I was too livid to care, and an alien with a hole in his head shows up and flirts with the bartender, who I guess is played by one of the Golden Girls, and grabs her behind the bar. It was all too weird. Then there was a curfew and she tries kicking everybody out, but nobody listens to her. So she breaks into a song, and I know I praised some of the musical numbers in this film, but this was really bad. It was so bad, I had to purposefully get up to catch a break, and when I came back, it was still going on. Dear Lord. When the song is over, the only one left standing is the creep who groped her behind the bar, and the segment ends. What? Does she get assaulted again? Why were the Imperial Guards just watching this? What the fuck is going on? At this point, I just wanted the whole thing to be over, so I thought it was. When Han Solo stepped in and accidentally rescued the hairy baby and came by to greet the hairy family, and he gave one last look at the child and had the face of, oh my god, my career is really over after this. He gave a warm hug to Chewie, and I thought he left, but no, he was going to make a comeback. But before that, the general was like, where the fuck is our stormtrooper? And the 200-year-old Han Solo cosplayer was like, oh, he ran for the hills. And the general was like, oh, okay. What? The scene ends with the Wookiees going to heaven, and I thought, okay, we are done. This was bad, but it's over. But nope. This motherfucker had the audacity to have an epilogue. But not just any epilogue. The epilogue with the worst musical number in the film by our very own Leia. She seemed so out of it that she was leaning on Chewbacca to not pass out. And when she sang, Luke and Han just stood there. And I get the impression this is where they really started hating this franchise. I know they joke about it a lot, but I'm pretty sure they thought, this is it. This is the end of my career. I will forever be tied to this. No wonder Harrison Ford went overboard on his dramatic roles after Indiana Jones and Star Wars. He wanted to scrub his memory and career off of Leia singing the Life Day song.
A day that leads us into life.
After what can only be described as 2 hours of her singing and Luke and Han awkwardly staring, or what felt like it, we get a montage of the best moments in Star Wars, and then fade to black. Usually, fade to black signifies the end of a film, but no, for this film, it means another epilogue. I was ready to throw my computer out the window at this point because we are now greeted by the Harry family having Thanksgiving dinner or Life Day dinner and saying their prayers while I lost the will to live. I shit you not, I had never been this broken down by a film. I have seen my fair share of bad films in my lifetime, and never with as many breaks as I had to take for this one. It took me a record 3 days to finish it, and another rewatch just to write this script. Why, God, why did I fucking watch this thing twice? Fuck my life. Anyway, I'm not someone who shies away from bad movies. I sat through Velocipaster, for God's sake. I am tough, okay? But this one was just unwatchable garbage. So I went around the internet looking for answers, looking for other people's reactions, and mainly to find out how the fuck this thing came into being. How did Lucas greenlight this? So I came across this documentary called A Disturbance in the Force, and here it mentioned something important that was different from my time. They talked about how variety shows were a thing, a big thing in fact, and how the creators thought that this would be a great addition to integrate the then audience to the Star Wars audience. Except what they showed here, which I guess was called the Lawrence Welk show, looked 1,000 times better than whatever the fuck this was. I would rather watch this on repeat than get paid to watch the dance acrobatic scene from Star Wars The Holiday Special. Not to mention having to endure the hairy grandpa get his freak on in the middle of the living room. I mean, that was a nightmare straight out of the Jordan Peterson book.
I dreamed I saw my maternal grandmother. Her genital region was exposed. She was stroking herself. She pushed this at my face.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
There was also apparently the usual BS of creators being changed at the last minute and in the end having so little money left that they bought candles and placed it all over the floor to create the Life Day scene. I mean, what the fuck is happening right now? But I guess I figured out what happened. George Lucas was not involved. He told the TV execs to do whatever they wanted, not realizing that movies don't necessarily translate well into TV. Today's TV is different. We get 10-hour-long movies like True Detective or Severance with masters of the craft directly involved in their project. But the master itself was absent here. I mean, what the fuck was he thinking? Giving away the reins to people who wrote for 80s television? There was also a ton of other revelations. Like, for instance, Robin Williams was supposed to be the Whip Whip lady, and that Han was supposed to marry a Wookie because apparently bestiality was the only thing missing from this shit pie, and by the end of it, I stopped caring about why this fever dream even exists, so I'd recommend that you check out this documentary yourself because I don't want to remember this ever again. So if you'd like to watch my reaction to this movie, which I don't know if I'll post or not because it's barely anything. I was just like mouth agape shocked at what I was watching. So go check out my Patreon and please leave in the comments below what did you think about this film? What were your thoughts? You know, like when did you first experience it? Okay, I'm not being sarcastic. I genuinely want to know. Like, let's have a conversation below. And for now, I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna take a long nap. So yeah, all right, bye. No way. Fuck this film.